Okay, so we use money every single day, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about what it is? I mean, it's not just paper, it's not just numbers on a screen, it's something much, much bigger. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this amazing technology, this system that, well, basically runs our entire world.
All right, to really wrap our heads around this, let's just do a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're a web developer. You're great at what you do, but how do you buy groceries? Seriously, do you have to, find a farmer who just happens to need a new website right now? How many lines of code is a loaf of bread even worth? It gets messy fast, right? That is the fundamental problem that money was invented to solve.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start in a world without money, then we'll look at its 3 core superpowers. We'll see how it evolved from actual gold to pure trust. And then we're getting into the really juicy stuff. Where does money actually come from, and what's that got to do with things like inflation and interest rates? Let's dive in.
Okay, first up, the problem with barter. I mean, before money existed, if you wanted something, you had to trade for it. Simple, right? Well, not really. It was actually incredibly inefficient, and it all comes down to this one key idea.
It's this thing called the double coincidence of wants. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's simple. It means our web developer has to find a farmer who needs a website. At the exact same time, the farmer has vegetables to trade. Think about the odds of that. All that friction just grinds the economy to a halt. You can't really have people specializing in things because it's just too hard to trade.
And here's where it gets kind of crazy. The problem doesn't just add up, it explodes mathematically. Look at this. With just 100 different things to trade, you suddenly need almost 5,000 different prices. You'd have to know that an apple is worth 2 carrots, but a chicken is worth, 50 carrots. It's a total coordination nightmare. There's just no way you could build a complex modern economy on top of that.
So, okay, how do you solve that nightmare? You guessed it, with money. Money is just this elegant solution. And it works because it does 3 very specific, very important jobs. I kind of like to think of them as its 3 superpowers. And here they are. First, money is a unit of account. Think of it like a universal yardstick for value. Everything gets a price tag, right? So we can instantly know how a website compares to an apple. Easy. Second, it's a medium of exchange. This is huge. It's the universal translator. Everyone accepts it, so you don't have to worry about that double coincidence stuff anymore. And third, it's a store of value. You can do your work today, get paid, and then save that value, that purchasing power, to spend whenever you want in the future. Now, for a long, long time, things like gold coins did all 3 of these jobs perfectly. Why? Because gold itself was valuable. But, the money in your wallet, it's not gold. So if it's really just a piece of paper or a number on a screen, what gives it any value at all? Well, the answer marks a massive shift in how humanity thinks about money. This is the big pivot. We went from commodity money, like gold, which has its own intrinsic value, to something called fiat money. And with fiat money, the value of a dollar bill has nothing to do with the paper it's printed on. Its value comes entirely from trust. It's just a shared agreement, a collective belief we all have in the system that stands behind it. Pretty amazing when you think about it.
And look, this isn't just blind faith. This trust is built on some very real, very solid pillars. First, the government says this is legal tender. You have to use it to pay your taxes, you can use it to settle debts. That's a big one. Second, you have a central bank whose whole job is to keep the money's value stable. And third, you have this massive payment system, the whole banking network that makes it super easy and convenient to actually use it every day.
All right, buckle up, because this next part, this is one of those aha moments that once you get it, you'll never see the economy the same way again. It completely flips the script on where you think money comes from.
So if I asked you, who creates money? What would you say? Most people would say, the government, the printing press, maybe the central bank. And you're not exactly wrong, but that's only a tiny, tiny fraction of the story. The real engine of money creation is hiding in plain sight.
The answer? It's commercial banks. Just regular banks like the one on your corner. See, most of the money in the world isn't cash. It's the digital numbers in our bank accounts. And here's the mind-blowing part. Those numbers, that money, is created literally out of thin air every single time a bank makes a loan. Let me walk you through how this works, because it's wild. When you get a loan for, say, a car, the bank doesn't go into a vault and pull out a bag of cash for you. Nope. They just type some numbers into your account. And that new deposit they just created, that is new money. A second ago, it didn't exist. Now it does. And just like that, the amount of money in the entire economy just grew.
Okay, so we now know that money can basically be created with a keyboard. This is huge, but it immediately brings up a really important question, a critical distinction we have to understand. Because if it's that easy, why can't we just create a bunch of money and make everyone rich?
Well, that brings us to this absolutely crucial point. Money isn't wealth. Money is the claim check for wealth. Real wealth, that's the actual stuff. It's the food, the houses, the cars, the technology, the services. It's a measure of what an economy can actually produce.
So a country can't get richer just by printing more claim checks. That doesn't work. The only way to get truly richer is to get better at making the actual stuff, by building better infrastructure, inventing new technology, and improving the skills of its people. Money is just the tool we use to organize all that. You know that saying, the map is not the territory? Well, money is the map. The economy is the territory.
All right, so with everything we've covered, from the nightmare of barter to money's superpowers to how banks create it, we can finally talk about two of the biggest, most talked about ideas in economics: inflation and interest rates. So, what is inflation really? At its core, it's a mismatch. It's what happens when the supply of money, those claim checks, grows way faster than the supply of real stuff. You have more and more dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services. And what happens then? Well, the price of everything gets bid up. That's inflation. And interest rates? This is a cool way to think about it. An interest rate is the price of time. That's really what it is. It's the price you pay to spend money now instead of later, or the price you're paid to save money now and spend it later. It's the super important signal in the economy, and it's built out of a few key components. Let's break down what's actually in an interest rate. First, there's a part that's just compensation for waiting, for delaying your own consumption. Then, and this is key, there's a chunk in there to protect against inflation. I mean, if you're a lender, you need to make sure the money you get back in the future isn't worthless, right? And finally, there's always a risk premium, a little extra to cover the chance that you might not get paid back at all. So let's bring this all together. If you take one thing away from this, it should be this. Money isn't really a thing. It's a system. It's like the operating system for our entire economy. It's this incredible human invention built completely on trust that allows millions of us to cooperate and work together in mind-bogglingly complex ways. And once you see money as a system, it really does change everything. The next time you see a headline about the central bank raising interest rates, you'll know what's really happening. They're adjusting the price of time to influence how much new money gets created. When you hear about inflation, you'll picture that giant scale, balancing the amount of money with the amount of real stuff. It's a whole new way to understand the headlines and, honestly, the world around you.